Good morning, party people. Yes, I am in the Richmond, Virginia area. Red rum, red rum. Only the older folks will understand that one. Anyway, if you need help, call or text. I am here to help whatever you need while I'm here. I'm talking with someone that's dealing with a door latch on the C70. I got my buddy Lester. We're trying to take care of things. I think most of what we have left is on this red V70R. Today I'm going to help Moshe replace a cylinder head. That thing is leaking so bad past those valve stem seals, consuming a lot of oil. Anyway, if you want to connect, call or text while I'm in the area. From here, I'll be moseying on toward the north and then going back to Cincinnati and over to Springfield, Missouri to take care of that manual swap where that guy has a broken automatic transmission. So after that, I'm going to pass through Arkansas, Mississippi, head back to Cincinnati, and then head to New York. Call or text if you want to connect. Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert. That's me. This video contains things that I encounter throughout the day. If for some reason I complete a task and you would like to see the details, you can click on the link in the description area below. This video also contains tips and tricks that I learned throughout the years. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. Thank you very much for watching. Here we go, folks. Kicking off the morning with an Rville. Got a V70R wagon, 98 Panther, and then Lester's red 850R. Man, that thing is beautiful. This one doesn't look bad either. It's got everything it's supposed to have except for the drive shaft, I think. So we're going to check these out, get them in tip-top shape for 23-year-old cars, that is, and have some fun today. Boy, I love arriving at people's place that are organized. Got a punch list for both cars, and we're gonna go check a few things out. Now, Lester is concerned that the wheel hub on the driver's side front on this thing is making a little noise at highway speeds. Sad to say, I think it's the CV axle. These CV axles, especially aftermarket ones, 10, sometimes 20,000 miles, they become unbalanced, little noisy, very little vibration. That's just the way it is. You could replace them every 5,000-10,000 miles and still have the issues with them. So sometimes you just wait till it gets annoying. For some of us, that doesn't take much, or you wait till they get bad and then replace them. But a lot of times these aftermarket axles, you know, they're $70 and they just don't last as long as the ones that Volvo sells for $500. Now I'm starting to hear now that the ones that Volvo sell after about 50, 80,000 miles, they're getting to be a little noisier than usual. So we'll see what he wants to do with that. For now, we're going to check out these parking brakes. The parking brakes appear to be working, just not well. So I'm going to jack it up, knock the wheels off, see what we're dealing with in here, and see if we can adjust them to work well. It actually feels like the handle is working. It's got a little slack in the cable maybe. So we'll definitely want to pull it, see if we need to replace any shoes or anything before we just adjust it and leave it at that. Don't want to adjust it and then they fall apart in 2 weeks. Wow, somebody put these lug nuts on way too tight. You should be able to pull your lug nuts off with one hand. These things are on so tight. For one, they could warp your rotor if they're not evenly too tight. For two, these things couldn't snap off. I get calls probably about once a year. Somebody's wheel fell off because the lug nuts snapped. Mainly snapped because they were too tight. So try not to torque those things on too tight. I hate to bust those things off with the impact, but sometimes you have to just get them off. Adjusted the shoes on both rear side of the parking brakes. The parking brakes are working a little. They're working a little better. I could apply the parking brake with the handle pulled all the way up and shift the car into gears and it'll hold the car, but if I gas it, it'll go. So the cables are stretched. The adjuster inside the armrest is adjusted all the way in. It can't go no further in. When you pull the handle up, you get about a third of a pull before they even start grabbing. So it's kind of unfortunate. Cables are stretched. They'll need to be replaced if we want these parking brakes to be any better. Got this minor vibration nuisance up here in this front end. Most people won't even know what's going on. You got to be a driver to understand that this is not perfect. So we pulled the wheel off. We pulled the nut out of the CV axle, wiggled it around to see if it would have any kind of play in it. It doesn't. It's tight. So it's unfortunately a brand new CV axle. When you replace these CV axles with aftermarket ones, you got probably about a 20% chance that you're going to get a good one. Some of them, man, they go immediately, you know. But most of them, you get 10-15,000 miles out of them before they start vibrating. This one's maybe got 5,000 on there, and you can feel a very slight vibration. Kind of almost feels like a tire out of balance, and it's just, you know, it's the way it is, the way it's going to be. So now I'm going to pull these covers off, take a closer look at this timing belt, see if the timing belt's in good shape. It looks like it's got a good Volvo water pump on there that is not original. It's been replaced. So we're just going to look at the belt. You got to pull this cover off, look at the belt, make sure the belt is good and serviceable. Something going on with the bottle a little bit. Coolant coming out of the cap area. I had the bottle laying on top of the engine cover, and it had a couple drips on the engine cover. Pull the engine cover, and there you have it. Oil in the top of the cylinder head, which is kind of normal. So we're going to check that seal there, make sure that's good. Mop all this up and note the mileage. Next time we'll see the mileage, see how long it took to refill that up. It's normal to see that under there, so it's nothing to be alarmed with. Just mop it up. Look like he's got a minor coolant leak there. That hose clamp is too tight. Over tighten that hose clamp. Look like the hose may not be orientated perfectly, and I see another coolant leak down there on that hose. That probably needs to be replaced before that hose comes apart. But if it's on that joint, metal joint, it may never come apart. Just always leak till you replace the hoses. You look at the belt, you see cracking on it. You really got to pull the cover all the way off to get to this point where you can see that. But this belt needs to be replaced, so it's probably got 70,000 miles on it. So I'll replace the belt, definitely the idler, check the tensioner, make sure the tensioner is good, and check the tensioner roller. Normally, tensioner roller can go 2 or 3 changes. The tensioner can go a couple 100,000 miles. It may be original. It's got almost 240,000 miles on it. But this belt and that idler needs to be done every time. Water pump needs to be done every 10 years. So I'm going to see if I can see a date on that. But the water pump's probably fine. Let me look at that date on there. That looks like it's 10 years old as well. So I normally do those water pumps every 10 years because, you know, how long will it last after that? You know, just don't like taking that chance. So we're going to probably order a timing belt kit for this or knock it out probably in the morning. My oil eater pad and my screwdriver. Got all this oil mopped up, dried up. Got a couple more spots to dab. Then we're going to check out a couple of these coolant hoses and try to look at the one on the turbo under the engine. Engine sounds beautiful. Beautiful smooth engine. Let's do the glove test. See if the PCV is plugged up. The glove is not inflating. That's good. I'm going to rev it up just a little bit. It's not sucking down as much as I'd like, but it's not blowing up, so that's good. Blowing the glove up a little bit under acceleration. A little bit of acceleration, the glove is blowing up. Let me see if I can get you guys to see that. Ugh. Inflating just a little bit. Beautiful V70R. Has the steering wheel that had wood here and wood over there over the top. That's come off, but other than that, the steering wheel is still in good shape. It's got the R blue gauges, and man, it's got this nice marble trim work in it. I don't know how he got this in here without pulling the dash, but he did. That's a hard task, and it's in good shape. I just fixed the boot around the shifter handle. It was loose, but very nice interior. In this video, I'm going to talk about the coolant temperature in the Volvo P80 cars. This is the 850s, S&V 70s, between 1992 and 2000. This is a 1998 Volvo V70R in the US market. That temperature gauge needle is right, we consider, in the middle, 3 o'clock position. It is 4 notches down from the red, 4 white notches, and it is running at normal range. It normally gets to that position at about 170 degrees Fahrenheit, and it won't start rising from that position until the engine coolant temperature is about 235, 238 degrees. It starts rising toward the red area. As you can see there, I have the coolant temperature shown in my scan gauge. It is now at 200 degrees. The fan will kick on this model from 93, 92, all the way up to 98. The fan, engine cooling fan, will kick on at about 216 degrees, and it will kick back off at 206 degrees. The thermostat begins to open at about 188 degrees, and it is fully open around 206 degrees. So normally, if you're moving right along, cruising 35 mile an hour or faster, enough air is getting into the engine compartment through the grill that your fan will not kick on. Your temperature won't rise higher than 204, 210 degrees, so your fan normally didn't cut on. However, if you're in extreme heat or the vehicle's not moving to push enough air through that grill, your fan will kick on at 216. Also, if your air conditioner is running, your fan should be running. These engine fans are 2-step fans. They have a slow speed and a high speed. They kick in the high speed when your engine temperature gets above a certain temperature. Right below your engine thermostat, that's your thermostat housing. That sensor right there is your ECT. It reports your coolant temperature to your engine. As long as you have coolant in your reservoir, that sensor is normally accurate. If some reason it malfunctions, it'll cause your reading to your computer to go haywire, and that may cause your car not to start properly. As you can see, this one, the plug is not stored in its proper bracket, and it has extra wires connected to it, so at some point it was not making good electrical contact into that plug adapter, so someone added and corrected that by putting some more wires on the harness. The engine fan just turned on. The engine coolant temperature is 216 degrees. It is now dropping. When it drops to 206, the fan will stop. The fan just kicked off. It is 206 degrees. And as you can see, the gauge is not moving. The gauge is programmed to stay in a normal range where you see it. So now that the fan is kicked on, we know that this coolant system is up to normal operating temperature. This coolant system is not a pressurized system. I always thought it was, however, it is not. It has a reservoir that coolant flows through, especially when the thermostat is open. Coolant comes through this little hose, goes down the back into the coolant system there, flows through the engine, circulates through the radiator, through the other coolant hoses, and coolant always goes through your heater core. So even if you dial your temperatures at full cold, that will not stop coolant from circulating into your heater core. So don't think that is something that you can stop fluid from going through. By the climate controls, you actually have to disconnect those two hoses there and connect them together to bypass that interior heater core. The heater core is inside the vehicle. When this engine is running, it may be normal for your level to rise about 1/4 of an inch at the most. It should not continue to rise while the engine heats up and keeps running. So if you drive the car for 20 or 30 minutes and this level rises all the way to the top, you likely have a breach in your head gasket. And you should be able to get this cap off if you turn it very slowly, let it hiss a little bit of warm air out of there. You should be able to get this cap off. It may take you a minute to get the cap all the way off, but if you cannot get that cap off, you likely have a breach in your head gasket. So you slowly turn this off, and if your head gasket is good, it will not turn into a volcano. If your head gasket is bad, your engine is running, you're at operating temperature, your thermostat's open, you should be able to get this cap off without your fluid rising up out of the reservoir. So as you can see, the level came up just barely and it is holding steady. This vehicle has a good head gasket. When the engine is not running and it's hot, you usually cannot get this cap off of there. So do not try to remove the cap when the engine is not running, especially if the engine is hot. Servicing or refilling the coolant system on this vehicle is relatively easy, especially if you have the proper Volvo thermostat. The Volvo thermostat has what we call a jiggle pin in it. This little pin allows air to escape the system while you're servicing it. As you can see there, that pin moves around there. It allows air out. So as you fill the system up through this reservoir, air will come up here and allow fluid to fill up in the system. Now, if you replace the radiator hose or drain the radiator, replace the radiator, or some other reason where you had to empty your system and you were not able to put that amount back in there, you will have to allow a little bit of trapped air in the system to get out. That does not take much. So what you do, you fill the system up as best you can. You fill the reservoir up almost to the top. You put the cap back on the reservoir. You start the engine, let the car get up to normal operating temperature. You could take it for a 3 to 5 mile drive. That is enough time to get the engine hot if you have a good thermostat, a good Volvo thermostat, and that will circulate the coolant through the system, circulate coolant in this bottle, and since this bottle is at the highest point, air will come out of the hose system through the channels of the engine, through the radiator, anywhere air may be. The flow of the fluid will push that air back up to this bottle, and when you come stop the car, the air will be in this bottle. The fluid in the reservoir will be low, and the next time this engine cools off, all of the air should be in the bottle. You take the cap off, fill the bottle back up to this line, which is the maximum line, and you should be good to go. Should not have to fill this up anymore. In the event you drive throughout the day, as long as you don't get a low coolant light, you can check it the next day, top it off. You definitely should be good to go there. If for some reason you're driving around and you get a low coolant light because the bottle is low and you don't have a leak, you can stop the car, put it in park or neutral, set the parking brake. The engine is still running, and as demonstrated, you can slowly take this cap off, put the level up to the maximum line, put the cap back on. You should be good to go. So this is not a system that takes 3-4 days to burp all the air out. The air comes out pretty quick because this is the highest point of the system, and the system circulates, and it is not a pressurized system. There you have it. That should explain to you everything you need to know about this coolant system. If for some reason you have a question, go ahead, leave it below. Me or someone else may be able to answer it. And thanks for watching, and leave any kind of comment you want about what you've experienced with this coolant system. Thanks again for watching. In this video, I just want to explain to you the function of the alarm horn in your Volvo. These are the cars built in the 90s. Most of them had alarm systems, and this is how you can tell real quickly if it had one. Number one, you got a light in the middle of your dash that blinks when you lock the car. Number two, the car is equipped with an alarm horn right here. Now, if you trigger your alarm to test it, there's a video in the comments that talks about that, and you do not hear the sound of this alarm horn beeping at you, it is probably because it is like this one. This one is missing half of the alarm horn. There's a part like a flat disc that goes on here, and a hand turnable nut that you can turn to adjust the tightness of it and the sound pitch of it. That is missing from this one. It also has a plug that plugs into that. I've seen those unplugged in the past. So that is your alarm horn. You can trigger the alarm to see if it works. You can turn that knob on the front of it to change the way it sounds. And if for some reason the alarm horn is damaged or missing parts, you can get those parts or replace the whole horn. Thanks for watching. Checking the heater core. Pulled this panel down, one of the few left in the country that still has a good mount there and a good hole there. Do not over tighten those things, people. They are destroyed when you do. What you see here, folks, is evidence that this car has blown a heater core in the past, and they cut out all of the foaming and stuff and replaced that with some dry stuff. However, this heater core is aging as well. It's got some evidence of leaking a little bit at the junction. So I'm gonna see if I could get to that sticker and see the date on there. I talked to mechanics, said they were replacing these things every 3-4 years at one time, depending on how many miles somebody put on them. Anytime the bottom of them gets dark like that, it's getting a little closer. I don't see anything wet right now, but I'll look a little closer and try to get a date on it. If I don't know when it was done, I usually just do them. Most of them last 100,000 miles, even at Swedish carport core. I've seen them going 100,000 miles or more. This looks like an original brand, which was bare. Let's see if we can see this sticker on here. Ooh-ah. That's the sticker over there. Come on. See if we can get it to where we can see the date. That's the date. Let me see if I can read that when I pull this back. I don't see anything wet right now, but it leaked at one time. Let me see if I could give that screw a little turn. Maybe it is just a little loose. 7/3/11. I think that would be manufacture date of July 3rd, 2011. So it's 10 years old. I would replace it, but I don't think it's leaking. The screw's tight, so I'd recommend replacing a 10-year-old here. Take the screwdriver, screw that in until it's snug, and stop. Woohoo, baby, it's getting hot. I'm gonna pull this carpeted mat out and pull the floor up to see if it's easily accessible to replace this fuel filter from through this little access panel. I could get to the back of the filter from under the car, but I can't even see the front of it or the bracket that holds it. So let me pull this stuff up, see if that fuel filter is right there, and go from there. Here's the fuel filter. A little interesting. None of this stuff is secure. I really can't get the front of that, but I'll jack it up, see if that helps. And there's some kind of vacuum line right there that's busted. So looks like that may be on the rollover valve. I don't know. I fixed mine. You guys seen it busted the other day by my fuel filter. I fixed it, and now I smell gas every time I drive the car. This early all-wheel drive vehicle, it's a 1297 built 98 V70R. The fuel filter is a little complicated to access. If you look here, here's the fuel filter here. It's got some brackets around it that are not secure. The back hose is easy accessible, somewhat easy from under the vehicle. The front one is not. I tried to reach my hand in here and maneuver this around to get at that hose, and I really could not get at it. So this is a tough one to replace. If I pull that off and I'm able to get enough slack through that one to pull it up to where it's accessible, I can push that hose off and possibly get some hook needle nose pliers on the line to pull it and push it onto a new filter. If I can't do that, that's going to be bad. So I'm going to pull this rear one off. I need some hook needle nose pliers to push that off, catch any fuel that's leaking out of it, and see if I can access that front one. I'm also going to open up the fuel tank cap to relieve any pressure in the tank, which will slow down the amount of fuel that comes out of that line. Doesn't seem like nothing, no pressure was on it. So let's see how this works out. Let me find my tool to disconnect that line. I was able to pull it off. Hopefully my needle nose pliers is long enough to get it back on. Let me get under the car, wiggle this filter out, put the replacement one in. Replacement one's right there. Looks like I got it. I set the filter up in here. I put the back hose on. Then I set the filter in place. Got a screwdriver, aligned the front hose, and got it started. Then I reached down behind there with my hook nose, needle nose pliers, held it in place, pushed the filter in with my thumb. So filter's in. We can close this nightmare back up. I guess it'll be best to start the car, make sure the car starts and runs. Didn't have any directional information on the filter I took off, so I orientated it the same way as the one that came off was. So hopefully the front hose is coming from the tank, the back hose is going up to feed the engine. Now I see that flow arrow on the filter. Couldn't see it before. So it's flowing the same direction that one is flowing. Awesome. Let's go start the car, check it for leaks. Car is running. We have no leaks. We did well. You gotta bump the starter to prime this one. The pump doesn't come on unless the starter is energized, from what I could tell. So anyway, it's up and running. I'm gonna shut it down and close it up. Good thing about this job is I had to find my hook needle nose pliers, and I found my soldering iron. Wherever I just put that, there it is. So I got my soldering iron. I can take care of a couple things. I also found a key to wheel lock. It was jammed under there, so somebody was probably looking for that one day. So there's a couple of screws missing out of this bracket stuff. Looks like a screw goes there. You see a little daylight down there, right on the front edge of that. Screw goes in that bracket there, then the screw goes here. Secure this into this bracket here. I guess I'm gonna go ahead and put a screw in here if I got one to fit it. Tighten at least the filter to the bracket. I don't know if I'm gonna put the bracket to the floor down there. When I push the filter in, you can see a bigger source of daylight down there. Let's see what screws we got. Put this stuff back together. Found this little thing floating around. Couldn't think right off the top of my head where it went to. But it goes right here, holding all these wire harness things down. Alright, so we are ready to close this up. I don't know if this thing's ever had a fuel pump, but man, it sure would be nice if it did, because these pumps are hard to replace. I don't know if that's got a date on it. Looks like it does not. Those wires look pretty clean for electrical wires, so maybe it has had a fuel pump. There's Panther, folks. Panther on the move. Panther on the prowl. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.